If you have never heard of a butterscotch tart before, then prepare to have your mind blown. So a couple years ago, I came across this really interesting recipe for a butterscotch pie. And it was like a cream pie with butterscotch pudding and whipped cream on top. And I made it and I was like, whoo-hoo, what have I been missing my entire life? So, of course, I wanted to try and make it vegan. And you guys, this recipe is the bomb. But what exactly is butterscotch? Well, it's a nice cousin to caramel. However, it has molasses. Now, when it was originally made in about mid-19th century Yorkshire, they added treacle or treacle. It depends on where you're from, I guess. But, you know, that stuff. Basically, molasses is how we know it today. And so butterscotch just primarily indicates brown sugar and butter. Now, this is a vegan recipe, so we're going to be using vegan butter, but it is still absolutely delicious and super simple to make. So let's get started. Let's get this party started. First, we're gonna make the butterscotch cream or creme. Butterscotch de la creme. Yeah, okay, I only speak English. Anyways, so you wanna start out by getting your brown sugar, which is the magic stuff that's gonna make this butterscotch, into a little bowl with your salt and cornstarch. Now we're doing this so it breaks up the cornstarch, so you wanna whisk it well, making sure that there are no clumps of cornstarch so that it goes nicely into our plant milk. Once that's whisked together, you can add it to your pot of almond milk, or if you're using soy or rice or whatever you have that's made from plants, use that. So that goes in there, and we're gonna pop it onto medium heat, and you want to whisk it continuously. This takes about 10 minutes. It's kind of tedious, and you don't wanna walk away from it because if it starts to burn on the bottom, then you'll have to start all over, and nobody wants to do that. So stick with it, making sure that you're using your whisk to get down in the corners and on the bottom of the pan and whisk it really well. You'll start to notice it thicken up and the foaminess will disappear, and then it'll get nice and thick. So once you get to that glorious point of thickness, go ahead and remove it from the heat and add in your vegan butter. And this is gonna give it a nice little bit of gloss and a smooth mouthfeel. Delicious. Get that whisked together, and then we're gonna pop it into another bowl and put it in the refrigerator just to hang out while we work on our crust. So this is going to just be a flaky AF crust. It is my go-to. To make my crust, I just get my dry ingredients into like a medium bowl. That totally works. And we're gonna get the flour in there, salt, and a little tiny bit of sugar that's in the crust. Mix it together just with a fork. A fork is totally fine. You don't need any special equipment for this recipe. And then add in your shortening, and you're gonna cut it into the dry ingredients. And what this is gonna do is allow the dry ingredients to coat the fat so that when we put the water in there, the fat is protected so that it can go into the oven and it can melt and create steam and push up the layers. And that's how we get our flaky awesomeness. Some nice big chunks in there. Once you've got that at that stage, go ahead and add in your cold water. And you want to mix it with your hand at this point, just because we don't want to break up any more of that shortening. It's good to use your hand, so give it a good wash. A little bit of soap, never hurt anybody. And get your hand in there. You want to get it till it just comes together and then stop. And then you can dust your work surface, pour your dough out onto the work surface, and start rolling it out. I like to just get it into a disc and start pushing it down with my hands a little bit to, you know, give it a little bit of help, get it started so I'm not rocking my rolling pin on a giant boulder. So you want to roll it out until it is, you know, like larger than the bottom of your tart pan. So this makes a 9-inch tart. And I like to just use the bottom of my tart pan to measure. So I put it right in the center of my dough, and when I have, you know, like an extra inch and a half, I know it's good to go. So to get it into the pan, I like to just slide it, the bottom, the removable bottom, underneath the dough, lift it up, and then set it down into the pan. And that just keeps my dough together, keeps it from falling apart. Now this is kind of a fragile dough, so be a little careful, and if anything falls apart, just go ahead and shove it into the pan and piece it back together and you are good to go. So once I get it into the pan, I like to push it up against the sides, make sure it sticks, so that when I cut it with my paring knife, I get a nice clean cut. I like to cut away from me so I get nice cleanness. Clean niceness. Yeah, good edges. Okay. So get that going, and then we want to par bake it. So I preheat my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and then I'm using some good old beans. You want to crumple up your parchment paper because that helps it get down in the crust, and it's not all rigid and weird. So I crumple it up, flatten it out, put it in there, get my beans in there, and then I just push down on my beans to make sure that it is all nice and packed in there, so I don't have any bits of the crust that don't have any weight on them, and then they'll slouch and they'll get really bad posture, and then they'll probably have spinal issues. We don't want that for our tart, so get it packed in there. I'm gonna pop it into the preheated oven for 15 minutes and then remove it, take out the beans, and then bake it for another 15 minutes. The beans just help the crust set up a little bit, again, so it doesn't slouch down as it's baking. Once that 15 minutes has passed, you want to take it out of the oven. I like to put it on another sheet tray at this point, just so that it's easier to handle once we add our fillings in there. So the butterscotch pudding like custard stuff is going to go into the shell, and you don't have to let anything cool here. Just put it directly in there and smooth it out basically, and then just shove a bunch of marshmallows on top. I basically used a whole bag of Dandy's vegan mini marshmallows, and I'm spreading them out pretty evenly. Now they are gonna puff up in the oven and kind of meld together and become one. They'll become one with each other and one with the universe. Or they're just gonna bake in the oven, Amy. Oh my gosh, okay. Get those marshmallows on there and get it back into the oven. And this is gonna go for about 20 minutes. You just want the marshmallows to puff up and to kind of toast on the outside. Not kind of, they're gonna toast on the outside, okay? So let them toast. This beautiful thing is finished, and I did cut myself a slice, which I've already eaten half of. But my kitchen is a hot mess and I gotta go clean that up. Hope you guys try this out. Seriously, the crust is flaky, crispy AF. The butterscotch custard, it's like pudding. And then the marshmallows got so crispy and puffy in the oven, and they're chewy, and just the balance of textures and flavors is amazing. So I can't wait for you to try this out. When you do, let me know down in the comments what you think. And if you want to check out some other vegan baking tutorials, please do check out this playlist right over here, and do consider subscribing to my channel. That would be awesome. I hope to see you again. Take care.